What we do have to determine is order. Do we have any volunteers to go? I will go last, but any volunteers to go first?
Me.
Okay. That makes
We
it easy.
usually just get silence there, so I figured I would not do silence.
Who wants to be number 2?
See, this is the silence.
I can be
I was
number-
talking about.
I can be number 2.
All right.
Who does number 2 work for?
That's what I was going for. In this case, Andy works for Bradley.
No. Number 2.
So, interestingly
Just
enough,
keep repeating that over and over again.
Yeah.
I can say that...
Number 2.
Jesus.
You threw him off.
Number-
You threw him off.
2.
of my top
Number
10 for the
2.
year, since I added Rise of Skywalker,
What was number 2?
number 2 actually is one of these 3 that I've seen in the last 2 weeks.
No, I want number 2.
I'm too tired.
I was saying, this is like almost not fair to do to Mike right now.
It's okay. It's okay. I understand it. But yeah, the 3 in the last 2 weeks.
Number 2 weeks?
Fuck. This is going to be a thing. Thing.
You know, it probably won't be the moment we actually get out of this and start recording. So,
I'm going to make it a thing. It's going to be the cold open for sure.
oh yeah, definitely.
I think it's why, like, I feel like that's part of why he's doing it. But at the
Andy
same
knows
time,
we need material to start this episode before we can get going.
well, sometimes I think like, oh yeah, Andy's definitely trying to get us some cold open material, and then sometimes I'm like, no, that's just Andy. Like,
yeah, a lot of times it's just me fucking around.
So, I mean, it's good either way. I enjoy it.
Sometimes it feels good to go number 2.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bry Guy and His Super Friends. I'm your host, Brian Labick. Joining me for this episode is the Andalorian, Andy Stolz,
What's up, podcast people?
Mr. Movie Slut, Josh Zorch,
Always welcome. Oh man, I messed up words.
and
Doing
Darth
talking?
Poole, a.k.a. Darth Pooey himself, Mike Bradley.
I feel like you're doing half our intros for us. I like it.
I am.
It
Well, I
smooths
take the
things out a
pressure
little
off.
bit.
I was going with Andy's nickname, and I was like, well, everybody else sort of has nicknames, too. I got to put everybody else's nickname in there, too.
when did that nickname for Andy come about? I missed this.
Friday.
A couple days ago, he finally told us
Yeah.
about it, yeah.
Nice. I like it. It works.
All right, so we are back for one of at least my favorite episodes. I don't want to speak for everybody, but one of my favorite episodes we ever do every year, which is our top 10 most anticipated movies for the next year. So this would be for 2020. If you've listened to one of these episodes before, each of us ranks our top 10 most anticipated for the next year. We give ourselves a few honorable mentions to go with it too, and we just kind of compare our lists. So we usually start with everyone's number 10, we go to everyone's number 9, and so on and so forth until we get to number 1, and just kind of shoot the shit about
Oh, it's reversed.
it. It is reversed.
Damn it.
You've done this before. It's been a couple years,
We're
but
gonna-
you've done this before.
We're going to start with number 1, and then we're going to work all the way to our least most anticipated. And
Yeah.
we're
it's
going against
diminishing
the
returns
concept
the
of
entire
all
episode.
time.
Yeah, we'll save the honorable mentions for last, just to see if we hit anybody's honorable mentions and discuss them as we're going, and then whatever's sort of left that we haven't talked about, we'll hit.
So do you think, I'm not personally a religious person, but do you think when Moses got the 10 Commandments that he did something similar? Or do you think he started with number 1, or do you think he started with number 10?
I think he started with number 2.
You let him walk into that one.
Are we going History of the World Part 1, and he started with the 10 commandments. I don't know.
Well
I
done,
figured
sir.
that's like the first top 10 list, right?
I guess it would be, yeah.
So,
So did he bury the lead, or did he lead up to that?
yeah. Maybe they either learned because of how good his was, or they were like, he was the only one that ever went 1 to 10, and people were like,
It doesn't work. Nope,
don't
try
do this
again.
ever again.
And not
Fair
to go
point.
off on a tangent, but isn't it interesting how, like, thou shalt not kill is not number 1? Or at least, like, the first one you mention, at least. It's like number, 7 or something on the list?
Yeah, you're asking the wrong person. I couldn't tell you what
It's like,
the order is.
Make sure you go to church on Sunday. Oh, and probably, I don't know, a little later, don't kill people.
All right, so we determined our order beforehand, so we're going to go Mike first. Andy is number 2. Josh,
Number 2.
and then myself. I'll finish this off, and then we'll loop back around to Mike. So, kicking us off for Mike's number 10. Give us what you got.
For me, number 10 comes a Disney movie releasing expected, it says July 24th, 2020, and that is Jungle Cruise. This is Emily Blunt and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It looks like they're gonna have some fun with this movie. Basic premise is like they're hunting down something. I mean, Indiana Jones-esque hunting something down in the jungle, and The Rock plays the rugged not explorer, but like
Seems like a
riverboat.
grifter, actually.
Yeah, like riverboat operator, whatever you want to call them. And yeah, they kind of meet up and they have to head on down the river. It looks just like a ton of fucking fun. And the cast is decent. I mean, outside of Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt, you've got Jesse Plemons, Jack Whitehall, Paul Giamatti, and a bunch of other people I don't necessarily recognize. So, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a fun movie, and I think that's a good way to start the list off, because I think it's either based on a ride that exists, or they're making a ride of it.
I think it's based off a ride, right?
I've never done the Disneyland thing. I was never taken there as a kid, so I don't know.
Yeah, if it is, I think it might be at the park in California, because I don't recall
Yeah, I don't
offhand seeing
remember
anything
it.
like this in Orlando.
Exactly. I don't remember seeing it in Orlando anywhere.
I couldn't tell, but I wouldn't be surprised. Does it seem like they're just like sort of like they tried to do with Haunted Mansion right after Pirates of the Caribbean? Do you think they're going to try to use this as like a kickoff for another franchise of things, or they're just maybe tapping into, hey, what else can we kind of adapt?
Both.
Yeah, like I think if it's big enough, then they'll franchise it, just like anything today. If it makes enough money, they'll make a sequel.
Yeah.
Good point.
But from the looks of the trailer, I would say, it looks like a one-off from the trailer, but that's really tough to tell.
I actually feel like I remember watching the trailer, but I feel like I've largely forgotten everything I watched in the trailer.
Fair enough.
So I am curious to see what it ends up being, but I don't remember the trailer immediately grabbing me. So I just don't have too much else to add, I guess, really, is what I was getting at.
It just had, you know what I mean, like, it struck a chord from several movies that I like, that, you know, like, you get him faking a lot of the jump scares for his customers, and that reminded me of, like, the beginning of Land of the Lost, and then you get the whole, like, National Treasure-ish kind of feel, Indiana Jones-ish kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
And it's The Rock and Emily Blunt as well. The two of them. I don't think they've ever done any other movies together that I know of.
Nothing's coming to mind.
But I enjoy both of them. I think they're both really good. So
Yeah, agreed.
I'm definitely down for it.
All right. Anything else to add for Jungle Cruise, or we'll go to Andy's number 10?
Just maybe amend my comment that I apparently there might be a Jungle Cruise ride at Orlando as well. So like F me in the face, I guess. I was completely.
Is it a new one then?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not getting a whole lot of detail. They say it's in Magic Kingdom in Orlando. So I guess the like 2 times I've
That's not.
been there. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's not ringing any bells.
It's really not. But either I'm wrong. It's like apparently at the California park and definitely Tokyo.
Huh.
So if you're one of our many listeners in the greater Orlando area, please chime in and correct the record.
Or if you visit Disney a lot more often than any of us do,
This is true.
let us know. All right, so we'll go to Andy's number 10.
All right, my number 10 anticipated movie of 2020 is Bill and Ted Face the Music.
So that was actually one of my honorable mentions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The first 2 are hilarious, and I'm really excited to see a reprisal in the role by Keanu Reeves, especially after all the John Wicks and
Yeah.
Matrixes and stuff. Very serious action type roles. I'm excited to see him sort of go back into a comedic timing.
Put the whoa back in Keanu.
Did anybody see the movie? I think it was from like late 2018 called Destination Wedding with him and Winona.
No.
No.
It is surprisingly, in my opinion, I think Sarah agreed, really freaking hilarious. They are, as far as I can tell, with the exception of maybe like background noise, they are the only 2 people who speak in the entire movie. It's basically an entire series of conversations between just them.
That's kind of weird.
It is, but it's like, and it's really like intense, like rapid fire, like Aaron Sorkin style dialogue writing that just like moves and moves and moves. So like kudos to them for having been able to deliver the dialogue. And there's not a whole lot of like what look like cuts to like, mask where like mistakes could have been made. Like it just seems like almost like a play on film in the way that it was made. But that in particular kind of reminded me like, oh yeah, Keanu Reeves actually does have comedic timing.
Yeah.
And he does like it's not strictly a comedy per se. But I'm with Andy on that because like I definitely want to see him back in a role that is just 100% strictly like you have to kind of be doofy again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been a long time since he's been doofy.
Yeah. Andy, do you have like strong fond memories of Bogus Journey? Because I don't think I've seen it since I was 8.
You know what? I did watch it maybe like 10 years ago.
Okay. And
somewhere in that realm.
How did it feel?
I got a free DVD from like Pizza Hut with my pizza, and it was Bogus Journey, and I was like,
in like 2009?
I was like, holy shit! I forgot this movie exists. Yeah, so I like threw it in, and I was like, wow. So it's been a while, and I want to do sort of a rewatch before I go see the movie. But
yeah, same. Definitely on Bogus Journey for me. One of my younger coworkers, who's about 24, I brought up this like 2 weeks ago because I saw like some production stills or something that had been released, and I said, hey, just in case, like, do you know what Bill and Ted is? She's like, no, I've never heard of that. And I said, oh, it's Keanu Reeves and George Carlin back in the day. She said, oh, what's that about? So I lent it to her, and I think she's gonna she's off this week for New Year's, so I think she's gonna watch it this week. So I'm definitely interested to hear what a 24-year-old who has never seen Bill and Ted from like 1988 thinks.
I feel like Keanu is enough of a pop culture icon right now. Like, he's very, very big at this moment. So I feel like people will be more... It's the right time for this to happen. Like
that is a good point. Do you think, because like they've been talking about this movie for, I mean, probably off and on for many, many years, but I feel like more strongly, seriously, maybe the last 5.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do you think it would have had the same steam if it had hit in like 2014, 2015, as opposed to 2020?
No.
No, they actually planned this quite perfectly.
Yeah. Like he's at the peak right now.
Yeah, right.
Does anyone know offhand if the other Bill and Ted movies are streaming somewhere? Because I'm thinking I would actually like to rewatch them too, but I don't know if they're even available
The first
anywhere.
one, I believe, is on Netflix still, but I'm not positive of that. It's been.
Yeah.
I watched it. Amy watched it for the first time about 6 to 8 months ago.
Okay.
So I
So
can't.
she found it somewhere to watch it?
I'm pretty sure it was Netflix that we found it on at that time.
If it was, it does not look like it's there anymore.
Okay. Well, like I said, it was 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
That their cycles can be kind of off.
Sometimes, every once in a while, if you guys have any red box kiosks near you, sometimes if a sequel movie comes out, or like the third in a trilogy, some of the red box will put the original movies in the red box so you can go like rent them.
That's a good point.
Okay.
They did that for John Wick. When John Wick 3 came out, like you could go get John Wick 2 and John Wick 1 at the red box if you wanted to catch up and then go see 3.
Oh, Bogus Journey is included with Amazon Prime.
There you go.
Done.
Excellent Adventure is not, but it is available to rent for like $3. But yeah, Bogus Journey apparently looks like it is.
I might rent it if it was number $2.
Which one is first? I'm trying to remember.
Incredible.
Excellent Adventure.
Or yeah,
Okay.
Excellent Adventure. Yeah, Excellent Adventure.
Okay. I'm interested to see that movie. Even just the way that you guys talked about it too. I think I'm more curious. I think it could have made my top 10 had we seen a trailer. I think getting a taste for a lot of these movies is what put me over the edge for some of my anticipated list. Like some of the ones that I have in honorable mentions are ones that I want to see, but there's no trailer, so I don't know what to expect, and that's where this one fell.
Yeah, I would agree.
Oh, I will let you know. So for some reason, when you search just like Bill and Ted in like Prime Video results, there's 2 different entries that you get for Bogus Journey. The one says it is included with Prime membership, but it is leaving Prime on December 31st.
Oh
So
shit!
you got like 2.5 days
I'm watching that after
So,
this podcast.
before you have
Finish
to pay
podcast,
$3 for it.
Watch Bill and Ted.
So by the time this comes out, Bill and Ted will no longer be on Amazon Prime.
for free, but
If you're
yes, still
listening,
available for
sorry.
rent.
Well, it helps us. We have a window of opportunity here. All right. Anything else for Bill and Ted? Nothing. All right. Josh, you're number 10.
Okay. My number 10 is I was surprised that this landed so low, but I think it's because. So, all right, let's not bury the lead. It's Dune. And
Okay.
You know what? I completely forgot that is due to come out next year, and I did not get it on my list at all.
yeah, I think it's like late
Revise.
December.
I know.
Yeah,
haven't
you haven't
yet.
gone yet. You can quickly if you can edit that part out, no one will ever know.
That's true.
There's I watched the old Dune movie once. I want to say maybe college or something, and I don't remember much about it. I never read the books. I'll be honest, the only real reason that I have any interest in this is some of the cast and that it's Denny V.
Yeah.
And he has just delivered like 2 or 3 solid good hits in a row that like whatever his next project was going to be, I was going to see it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I know nothing about Dune. I've never seen the original. I've heard it's weird. It's about the gist of it. But if you've paid attention to my favorite movies of the past couple of years, he's hit my top movie twice.
Yeah.
So I'm
I think in a
pretty much
row. I think it was
invested.
like
Yeah,
16
it
and
was-
17.
Yeah, Arrival and Blade Runner were 2 of my tops. So yeah, I'm just curious to see what he does next, and if this is the movie he's picking, I have to give it a shot.
Yeah, just go ahead.
I was just saying, I fall into the other category. I love the old movie. I read the book a long, long time ago. This appears much higher on my list. And since they announced this, I've been looking forward to it greatly. So, yeah.
And again, that might have been better for me had we seen a trailer for this already.
Well, this isn't till December. So,
Yeah, so we're still a ways out.
like the end, this is
Um,
Christmas next year.
Yeah, but I almost
basically.
feel like even a year out, some people do like the real short teasers for the stuff that comes out next year.
Yeah.
And putting it in front of Star Wars like that, I think would have been perfect.
True. That would have been a good place for it. I think one of the reasons that, if you have even like fleeting impressions of the 1984 movie of like why it might seem strange, like it was a David Lynch movie.
Mm.
hmm
So from what I can tell, like the source material was, definitely sci-fi, fantasy, of a different nature to begin with, and then you put David Lynch in front of it. It's it's gonna like put it in a blender and make it all crazy like.
Yeah.
And just out of, doing my due diligence, I was scrolling through the cast, and your boy Desmalchin's in there.
I know he has become a Denny V staple, and I
Yep.
like that.
So
He was in Blade Runner and Prisoners. The like rest of the cast is great, actually. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
thing. It's not
it's
like
deep.
just like one or two people. It's Rebecca Ferguson, Timothy Chalamet, Oscar Isaac, Zendaya, Jason Momoa, Josh Brolin, Bautista, Stellan Skarsgård, Javier Bardem, Desmalchin. It's deep. It's a good bench.
yeah, when Javier Bardem is the 10th person listed on IMDb, your cast is
and-
strong.
Yeah, the way at least this page I'm looking at is saying it's sorting by the IMDb star meter. So, well, I guess like whatever the like user ratings or user visits, maybe that's how it measures it. But so all those people ahead of him are getting their pages visited more, I suppose, than Bardem. But once you get to that point, you're like, oh, all those people, and Bardem, holy shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it feels like it's gonna be really strong.
Andy, anything to add for Dune?
Dune did make. Okay, so to do this, I just sort of went through the whole list of movies coming out in 2020 on a couple of different websites and wrote down every single movie I wanted to see.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then I ranked the top 10. So this made the list, but it did not make the top 10.
So honorable
I
mention?
guess
That was one of your honorable mentions?
mention,
Okay.
yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I actually
And I
think
think
that's where I'm
that's-
going to stick mine too. Is I'm going to put it. I can't revise my top 10 at this point. I'm sticking with it. So it's going to. This is basically an honorable mention for me too.
Right, and I think it made it there because of what Brian said. I didn't really see any sort of trailer for it, so I am anticipating it, but I think it may have cracked the top 10 if I had seen some sort of trailer.
I feel like it's one of those movies. Like I feel like I remember hearing about this after Blade Runner, and I was like, oh, that should be interesting for him to do next after Blade Runner. But it's taking so long to make that I honestly just forgot about it.
Yeah.
Well, to some degree,
Completely
I
slipped
think.
my mind.
I think we're also getting. It's no fault of you specifically, but I think we're also getting very spoiled at the rate that things become available and completed to us.
Oh yeah.
So like to go
Sure.
from finishing something like Blade Runner that was very involved to taking 3 years to make your next movie when that next movie is Dune,
Right.
it's not that ridiculous, but
No,
I think
no,
it's
it's
just a product. Our thinking in that way is just a product of the times.
Yeah, at the rate everything turns around and at the rate we get trailers released and stuff like that, it's easy to lose yourself in all the stuff that's happening now and not the stuff that's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything else for Dune? Nothing? All right. My number 10. My number 10 is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay.
Okay.
I
All.
was not sure. The first trailer where Sonic looked weird before the redesign, I was like, okay, there's some humor in there. Bringing back like 90s Jim Carrey, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
But Sonic design looked fucking creepy. And then when they redesigned him and released the trailer again, I was all in. The humor seemed like it was better. Jim Carrey still seems completely over the top. I am here for it.
And I like the fact that it almost feels like a buddy cop thing with
Yes.
James Marsden.
Yes. And if anyone has ever seen Sex Drive, Marsden is fucking hilarious in that movie.
Yeah.
He's really good. Yeah.
So I'm anxious to see him in another comedy.
This also made my top 10 at number 9.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
getting back around to Jim Carrey doing Jim Carrey, doing
Yeah.
what he was always so good at, that definitely was always a draw for me. Even when Sonic looked stupid, I was kind of like, it's still Jim Carrey playing Dr. Robotnik. or Eggman, whichever one he's actually going to be. I guess it's, like they're, I can't even tell them apart, honestly. But it's going to be fun seeing him. Even if the rest of it sucks and is ridiculous, it's going to be fun watching him.
Yeah. Josh, anything for Sonic?
Not especially. It made the calendar for the year. I'm sure I will. I mean, I wouldn't even have put it on. There were several movies that I'm sure are on your guys' either top 10s or general calendars that aren't even going to make my calendar. And so like it made the calendar. So I'll try to get out to get it at some point. But just with everything else, it didn't intrigue me enough to crack the top 10.
Gotcha. All right, so we'll loop around to Mike's number 9.
My number 9 is The King's Man, the prequel to Kingsman and Kingsman Golden Circle. Looks great from the trailer. Looks like they're taking it in a completely new era, obviously, here. Different direction. Again, here, the cast is incredible. But that's expected for these movies, I guess. But, I mean, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Gemma Arterton, Ralph Fiennes, Charles Dance, Stanley Tucci, Daniel Brohl, Jimon Hounsou, Rhys Ifans. It's got a solid cast for what it's going to be. Golden Circle was a bit of a letdown, so I'm hoping they can swing things back around with this one.
Yeah, I think there was some confusion. A lot of people, when Golden Circle was coming out, I feel like Taron Egerton kept getting asked, so what's going on with the next Kingsman? Like, you're going to be in it? And he's like, no, I'm not in the next one. And then everyone's like, oh my God, he's not in Kingsman 3. No. Kingsman 3 is happening. It's still on a release schedule somewhere. This is a prequel that they are doing before that movie. So obviously, if it's a prequel, Taron Egerton's Eggsy is not in this movie.
Yes, because this is like how the origin story of the Kingsman.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is going, that interests me on itself. Like, how did they really come to be? Because I think, like...
And you wonder why they're doing it before... Like, if Kingsman 3 is still happening, they have to be doing the prequel first because it's somehow going to tie into the third one, is the way I would think.
Maybe.
Like, you know, if you're gonna end the trilogy some way, tying it back to the beginning of how everything started, I think is a good way to do it. So if you're gonna give me the story of how everything started and then wrap it up with number 3, I think that would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. The trailer's out there. It looks good.
Got delayed. Was supposed to be Valentine's Day. They pushed it till September, I think.
June 9th.
Oh, no. That's definitely the wrong date.
No, that's when they updated. Never mind. Yeah, September 18th, 2020.
Okay.
That's where I was reading the wrong date. I saw a date and just assumed it was the right one. No. September 18th, 2020 is the release date now.
So hopefully that's a good sign and not a bad sign. But just polish up the movie a little bit better, tighten some things up, and we'll get it 6 months later.
Yep.
Or 7, however many months later that is.
7. You were...
I was close. All right. Anybody else? Anything to add for Kingsman?
It actually did not make my list.
Not even honorable mention.
Mm-mm.
Did you see the other 2?
I saw the first one.
Okay.
It's on the calendar.
Fair enough.
It will be on my list a little bit later. It did make my top 10. All right, so number 9 for Andy, you said was Sonic?
Sonic the Hedgehog, correct.
Okay, that's where you talked about that. We'll flip over to Josh for number 9.
We've actually, continued to already hit some repeats. My number 9 is Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Okay.
Nice.
All right, so on to number 9 for me. My number 9 is Bad Boys for Life, which I was hoping would be higher up on my list. And I'm a little scared of this movie because I have wanted this sequel for so long. So I'm trying not to go in with very, very high expectations because I'm afraid it's going to disappoint me. But the best part about this movie is Will Smith and Martin Lawrence playing off of each other. And this movie, at least from the trailer, seems like it still has that in spades. So I'm excited.
Yeah, they're still comedy gold together, I think.
Yes.
So
So
Yeah.
can I ask Brian, are you putting it this low on your list just to give yourself like a hedge in case it doesn't turn out that well? And you can say, well, it's not like it was number 2.
Kind of.
Number 2.
See, I knew that was going to be a thing. Yeah, I mean, there's even looking at the list, I'm like, there is some stuff that I feel like I'm looking forward to more than that, and it was like, do I really want to put a lot more money on that being better than some of the other stuff that I'm thinking I'm looking forward to? So yeah, I just kind of stuck it lower.
All right, fair.
It made my list, but it's honorable mention.
Okay,
Yeah, it's on my calendar.
Josh, after having experienced both Bad Boys now, that's all it gets, just on the calendar.
So I mean, I kind of had to really think about this one. Like I thought, because especially like with the recency of having seen those, it does look fun. I'll give you that. I think we talked about this
Okay.
when like the first trailer was released, that the fact that Michael Bay is not behind the director's chair
Right.
this time should ease any apprehension about it to a large degree. But since I'm just not that vested in it over a long period of time, it didn't hit the 10, but it definitely made the calendar, and it's coming soon, right? It's like, I mean, by the time this
January,
gets
right?
out, yeah, it's
That's
like
the other thing that
January
scares me.
17th.
Yeah, is the release date is weird. For a movie that I think is supposed to be this like action-packed summer blockbuster kind of feel, that it's releasing the middle of January is weird.
I think they're going for that January market that nobody's tapped into.
I mean, which is smart if that's
Yeah,
the
because-
reason. But typically, when they unload movies in weird months, it's because they don't have confidence in it, not because they think it's going to make
Right.
money there.
Yeah.
I'll give you that, but
which
think of what happened with Men in Black this year.
Yeah.
There's a couple of movies where like they're going back to the well and pulling these out because they think that there is a big fan desire to dip back in, and maybe they thought there was, but not as much for the rest of the general audience, and so
I feel like Bad Boys will hit more people than the Men in Black thing would.
it could, but it's going to, if it falls far short of those hopes or expectations, it's going to be highlighted that much more if you put it out in June.
Yeah, but I would say like I think the difference there is that Bad Boys 1 and Bad Boys 2 kind of still hold up to what they were.
You don't think the first Men in Black does?
The first Men in Black does, but they spoiled the franchise with all the sequels. Like the
Okay.
first one was really good. The second one less good, but still passable. The third one is trash.
No, I'd make an argument for 3.
Oh, I can't.
I would. I like 3 better than 2.
Yeah,
Agreed.
for sure.
Ugh. I feel like they kind of messed the franchise up personally, and that's why like people were like, okay, so you couldn't get Will Smith back. Like this is another Will Smith franchise we're talking about. But
I think that's part of it. Yeah, you're not getting the original guys back, and the Bad Boys sequel I think works because you're getting the original guys back.
yeah, if this was a
So I think it
remake,
has a little bit more weight to it.
like with new people taking over, I don't think it would work at all.
No,
And-
and the thing with Men in Black, it actually does lend itself on paper to different people at a later time,
Oh yeah,
in history, being a part of that organization and that lifestyle and everything. Yeah, Bad Boys is just what you'd literally just be borrowing the name.
Yep.
I think the other part that's hesitant for me too is like, okay, Michael Bay's not doing it, so I expected, I guess, like a well-known action director to take over, and there's a duo directing, and I don't recognize them at all. So I don't know what else they've done. Wait, I gotta look them up. Adil El, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm gonna butcher everybody's name. Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah are the 2 directors,
Okay.
which I'd have to look at their IMDb specifically to see what else they've done. I don't think they've done much.
Couple features, couple things in TV.
Yeah,
it
TV
looks like.
shorts, images, couple film. None of the stuff on here I have ever heard of. So the fact that this is like their big break type of movie, I'm a little bit hesitant.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, there's been a couple. I think that this is almost becoming a little more common for like constant collaborative directors and being like co-producers and maybe even like story runners on things. Like they did that on Captain Marvel. Co-directors who typically just do projects together. I mean, look at the Russo
Right.
brothers. I don't know.
But anybody that goes through the Marvel machine, I feel confident they're going to come out okay. I don't know if these guys would have that kind of backing and help.
True, but yeah, maybe there's something about elementally about their prior work, as a whole that the production thought, let's just give them a shot. I mean, anybody else is already going to have a reputation for something. They're going to have critical baggage, if nothing else. Like this is just fresh.
Yeah.
This is, let's see what they can do. If it's good, it's good. If it's not, then it's like, one more notch in their film school for them.
And honestly, I feel like watching the trailer, if someone didn't tell you Michael Bay's not directing this, it does still kind of feel Michael Bay-ish.
It does.
They
Excellent
do
point.
try to emulate his style. So there's enough confidence there that I'm like, it could be good, but I'm still kind of, like Josh said, kind of hedging my bets. And if it fails, at least I can say, well, it wasn't, in my top 5.
So
Well, you'll know in like 2.5 weeks.
I know, which is actually, I keep forgetting that, but it's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that.
so on that, I have one question and one teaser. The question is, Josh, is on
Yep.
the calendar. Is that your honorable mention, or is that like
No.
below honorable mention?
So anything that makes the calendar is just things that I've laid out for the year that sound interesting enough that make me think I would probably like to see that movie,
Okay.
just in general. And
Okay,
if
so
I
it's
can
like-
see it in a theater, that's probably a better experience. Out of anything that's on the calendar that's not in the top 10, there's honestly only going to be probably like 2 or 3 additional honorable mentions that just would have skimmed by at, using your system, let's call it 10B-C,
Okay.
10D, if you will.
Fair enough. The tease that I have is that Michael Bay makes my top 10 for 2019.
Spoilers, I know what it is.
Spoilers.
Oh, okay. I think I'm thinking the only movie I know that he did that came out in 2019. So
Yeah.
I actually don't.
All right, so that was my number 9. We'll loop back around to Mike for number 8.
My number 8 is a Black Widow. I feel like I don't want to say like this is coming in low on the list or anything like that, or maybe higher on your guys' list or something, but I have this at number 8. I think more is a testament to the quality of the rest of the list ahead of it, and it looks awesome. This looks like it's going to be another, I don't want to say another genre for Marvel Studios, because it's not necessarily, but I feel like it's going to feel different than a lot of the other movies have. And I think that's a good thing.
I think it's a very good thing. I'm actually hoping that it does quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we talked a lot about this recently when we discussed the trailer. And I'm hoping kind of for what I said, or not, I don't know if it was me or you or whoever said it at the time. I hope it's true, in that there's a reason why we've never seen Natasha called Black Widow, and that's because the actual Black Widow is her sister that we meet in this movie. And the super heroine of Black Widow carries on as her sister in the MCU. That would be cool.
Can I offer a hot take on that?
Sure.
I actually hope this is the end of Black Widow.
I think
And
So no one takes up the mantle at all?
I don't think it was
Correct.
her mantle to begin with, is what I'm saying.
No, I agree. But I think that the end of, I don't want to say, I think the arc of Scarlett Johansson coming to an end in Endgame, and this being the thing that, as an actress and for that character, that she earned over the 10 years of being involved in these movies is well overdue. And it's not just throwing a bone to someone who didn't deserve it. Like, we should have had this 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But
I think the story
think
team has a reason for why it's where it's at.
I'm hoping. So let me say, going in, I have one perception, and if they do a good enough job to change my mind coming out, that is fine.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of the Black Widow, whoever that is supposed to be, whether it's informal or formal, I am okay with the notion of Scarlett as an actress and the character of Black Widow getting her due at this point, but closing that chapter now.
Oh yeah, I'm fine with it if that's how it goes. It's just, speculating that maybe because we've never seen her called the Black Widow and this movie is called Black Widow, that maybe
Sure.
that's what happens. But I would say definitely something that happens in this movie is going to impact Phase 4, if you will, at least. Something. I can't say what, but there's going to be a Phase 4 impact. This is the first movie of Phase 4. There has to be something. Some jumping
Right, why
off
else
point.
do it then?
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So, whatever that might be, I guess we just got to wait and find out. But
yeah, I think part of it is knowing, the next 3 years that they've already laid out, and they're already introducing like 7 new characters, even if you just count the Eternals as one. Still trying to find spots for carryover characters, especially those like Black Widow who are gone now.
Right.
Just making sure that name still carries through, whether it's a different person that we're now calling that, just seems a little daunting to me. Like I said, I feel like this Endgame kind of closed that chapter. Like, that is done. And that's okay. I don't know if they're trying to like monkey wrench. Like, if they still tried to find ways to keep Tony Stark running through like the prevailing storylines, like that, they don't need to do that anymore.
Well,
what they gave us was satisfactory.
He does appear on the IMDb page for this movie.
For this, and right, and that kind of makes
rumored,
sense
though.
to
It
some
does
degree,
say
at least
rumored.
given the timeline. But
Yeah, given the timeline, it makes sense for him to be there, in some extent.
yeah, so like I said, if they change my mind, that's great. I'm like that guy sitting, the meme of the guy sitting at the park bench with the sign, like, Black Widow should be done after this. Change my mind.
Yeah, fair enough.
It did make my list a little bit later. I am excited to see more of the MCU spy genre. Like, I think Captain America: Winter Soldier is still probably my favorite, or at least top 3 MCU movies. So to give us another movie that seems to be in that vein, I'm all for it.
Yeah, same here. It also made my list, except higher.
Slight spoilers: it didn't make my 10 at all.
Wow.
Honorable mention, at least.
It's on the calendar. Would definitely probably make honorable mention.
So it's not honorable.
So I
okay,
feel
I was
like
gonna
Josh
say.
has this on the calendar category that none of the rest of us get to have.
Yeah, I feel like it's the almost like you guys seen the internship with On the Line. Can we talk about the on the line thing?
It's more or less for Josh. Like, well, I'm going to see it.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah,
It's not on my list, but I'm going to see it.
and yeah, right. It's the kickoff of Phase 4, like Mike said. Like, there's no way I'm not going to. But when we get a little further into the show and I get to a different entry, I can maybe better explain, like, better justify why it's not in the 10.
Okay. All right, so let's go to Andy's number 8.
my number 8 is Death on the Nile. I very much enjoyed Murder on the Orient Express, not having come into it completely cold, not knowing anything about Murder on the Orient Express, that it was a book, that it was like a prevailing detective that has a whole bunch of different stories, apparently. I'm really excited about this because I thought that, I just lost his name in my memory, but
Branagh?
Branagh, yeah. Or are you talking about...
what is
Are
it?
you talking about the inspector, or are you talking about
The actor that plays the inspector.
Kenneth Branagh?
Branagh, yeah. he did an excellent job, and I don't know, I thought it was a really enjoyable movie for something I had no expectations for. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to this.
For me, this was an honorable mention. Same thing. I loved the first one they put out recently. Of course, they've all been made before. And this one was kind of an honorable mention because I had never read Murder on the Orient Express, but like the one Agatha Christie novel I've read was Death on the Nile. And so I know how it ends unless they change it, which, you know, who the hell knows? Maybe to keep people who know the story guessing. But when it's a whodunit kind of thing,
and you already know who done
yeah,
it.
it can definitely put a little bit of a damper on it. So that's why I didn't make my top 10. But I'm definitely looking forward to it.
So, real quick, I'll just chime in because since I'll be next after this, this was number 7 for me.
Okay.
And I think the fun thing about this, and there are, Gwendolyn Christie readers, or I'm sorry, not Gwendolyn Christie, Agatha Christie, who have read many more of their books. If other than the Inspector, if there are other recurring characters that go through any of these storylines, because if not, this could be really fun if they continue this on for a 3 or 4 movie series every few years, because you get the opportunity to compile a brand new like A-list ensemble cast.
Yeah.
Every
single time, yeah. Like looking down this,
awesome.
you have Gal Gadot, Armie Hammer, Annette Bening, Letitia Wright, Russell Brand. So you can definitely keep changing it up and putting a lot of differently interesting people together.
Yeah, I'm with Andy. Murder on the Orient Express I thought was a lot better than I expected. Not that I really, I guess, expected much going in, but it surprised me, pleasantly surprised me. It did not make my top 10, but I might actually have to add it to honorable mentions. I kind of forgot about that one too. But yeah, or maybe I'll just make the I'll see it list like Josh does, and I will see this one.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it hit one more spot higher than me for Andy for a lot of those reasons as well, because I think with Murder on the Orient Express is, in principle, an extremely simple plot. There's not a lot that is really going on. There's not many set pieces. It's not going all over the place and tracking people down and investigating. It's
I sort of
it's a slow
enjoyed that
burn.
about it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the constriction of like his workable space, and like he can't see anyone else but these characters.
Mhm.
He has no outside influence in anything other than the train.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that.
And the fact that, and for me, it was also, like I said, it's not, and not there's anything wrong with stories that are like this, but it's not like a globe-trotting, murder mystery and connecting dots
where
from
they're in one country every
tons of different
10
groups in different
minutes
countries.
or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with those kinds of stories. But yeah, I agree. Like the word you use, constriction, the limiting area. Like he just had to go by intuition and deduction, and finding the slightest little holes in the details of people's stories, and yeah, I really enjoyed that. And when does Death on the Nile come out? Is that going to be, because Orient Express was like December, I think, if I remember.
That I don't
think it
know.
was.
I actually did not look up like release day, like months or any kind of thing like that. So
Gotcha. I think it's supposed to be at least in the fall, if not. Like I thought December was a pretty sweet spot for Orient Express. It's like good counter programming to a lot of the other big stuff that typically comes out in December.
October 9th is the release.
Oh,
Interesting.
nice.
All right.
I'll be right in the middle of all your horror movies.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll see while you guys see all your horror movies.
Well, and I guess for future tease, Bradley and I are in the next couple of weeks going to be giving all the listeners a 2020 horror movie preview episode as well. So Brian, you can make sure to check your calendar on those and fill in any gaps that you may need.
Yeah, I'll get right on that right after the episode's up.
But we'll be able to give you some ideas of what else might be out while Brian is. And to be fair, it sounds like the rest of us at some point will be seeing Death on the Nile in October.
Yeah.
I'll be there first.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to Josh's number 8.
Okay. So I just said Death on the Nile was 7, so skipping back a step, my number 8 is, and I found myself very surprised that I wanted to see this as badly as I guess I do. My number 8 is Mulan.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
There's been very, very few of these Disney remakes, live action remakes that I thought would be worthwhile, and both Aladdin and The Lion King fell way below my expectations for what I thought those movies could be in a live action setting, which again sort of plays into my surprise of when I saw this second trailer for Mulan. I think for me, this is the first of the ones that they've done that even if there was no preceding animated movie that it was based on, this would actually still look generally interesting to me.
Yeah,
That's
I
fair.
agree to that.
I think the just material of history and war, and obviously, you know, a woman having to be in a men's army, at an ancient time in the past of, you know, when that was not supposed to be. Well, I say that like in days past, that's like 20 years ago, even in the U.S. Army in some cases. So just all the dynamics playing into this make me think that it could be really, really cool. And it's obvious that they're going for earnestness, and it's still Disney, so it's definitely not going to be, you know, anything horrific. But, you know, they've taken the steps to, for instance, it seems like eliminate the, you know, Eddie Murphy animated dragon.
At least in the trailers, whether or not it's
Right.
there in the movie.
Right. So, and to be fair, like they might even take out, you know, some of the like supernatural elements of the villain and just more concentrate on the story of the families and the people and her as the soldier and, you know, that story through line. But yeah, like I said, I think just because it is something that could have seemed intriguing on the surface, regardless of it being a Disney cartoon previously. Yeah, especially the second trailer that came out like a week or two ago, definitely set me over the edge. So I'm looking for, I think this is like late March this is hitting. And it's, from what I can tell, if I'm wrong, but this might be the only live action Disney movie that I saw on the calendar all year so far. Unless
believe-
other dates for like Little Mermaid or something have been announced.
It's the only remake.
Yeah. Which I think is a good thing. They need to, in my opinion, they need to take a step back. Like 2018 had, I think, if you count Lady and the Tramp going on Disney Plus, they had like 4
Yeah.
live action remakes throughout the year, and I think they just need to put the brakes on a little bit.
Yeah.
I would like to see this movie. It did not make my list nor my honorable mentions merely because of the fact that I did not actually see The Lion King or Aladdin
Mhm.
or Lady and the Tramp. I think the only one that I've seen live action Disney was The Jungle Book,
Okay.
which I liked, but that's the only reason it really didn't make it, because the trailer does look good.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Andy. This will make my on my calendar list.
Yeah.
like
Same.
Josh. I actually haven't seen the cartoon. That was one that I never really watched growing up. But now that it's on Disney Plus, I fully intend to watch that prior to this movie coming out. At least sort of get the basis for it, and then, you know, watch the live action, see how they compare and stuff like that. But yeah, so I will see it, but it's not on my list or honorable mentions either. All right. Anything else for Mulan? We'll go to my number 8. Nothing. All right. My number 8, actually, we already talked about, is The King's Man.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So we're gonna slap back around to Mike for number 7.
My number 7 is No Time to Die. James Bond for 2020.
Okay.
Mike, I want you to know you're taking all of my movies right before I do. Like they're.
I'm just one behind.
Literally,
right where
my-
you're at.
Let's see.
It's
Mike's,
just like a fantasy football draft, and you're like, son of a God. not
Mike's
again."
last 3. His 9 is Kingsman. His 8 is Black Widow. His 7 is No Time to Die. My 8, The Kingsman. My 7, Black Widow. My 6, No Time to Die. So you're right with me.
So maybe next time you should go first, Brian.
No, it's. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm not bitter at all.
The next
all
one
my thunder.
that I have will 100% not be on your list. If
Okay.
it's on your list, I'll buy you dinner for a year.
Well, that just means my 5, 4, 3,
Like
2,
every
1
day
will
for a
probably all be
year?
the same as yours.
Given, yeah, it's a gory horror movie. There's no way it's on his list.
Yeah, I think that's just going to set us on track. That will be exactly even the rest of the list.
No, probably
But sorry, go ahead. I interrupt.
not. Well, I mean, it's a James Bond movie. Watch the trailer. What more do you need to know?
Right. This also made my list a wee bit higher, but I really want to sit down and watch Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and Spectre, like all sort of in a row, and then go see this movie, because I missed out on Skyfall and Spectre, and I really enjoyed Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. So,
So have you not seen Skyfall at all?
no.
Oh, not yet. Okay, just didn't know if you said if you meant missing them in the theater. Yeah, I gotta do the same thing with Spectre, because I've only seen it the one time in the theater when
Yeah,
it
I
was
agree.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It would be a good marathon. Just the Daniel Craig Bonds
Yeah.
leading up to this one, I think would be good.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
just to get them rewatched before then.
I wonder if they'll have one of those marathon viewing things,
Oh,
at, like
God.
AMC or something, where you can watch all 5 of them in a row.
Oh,
That
you're thinking
would not
5. Okay.
surprise me.
that
They're,
that would
gonna
be
go the MCU way and do 26 movies.
Yeah,
in one sitting.
that might be cool.
I feel like that would be too much because
right. I mean, they would have to break it up.
it's no. I mean, I don't mean time wise. I mean Casino
bonded
Royale.
out.
No. Casino Royale and Skyfall are excellent, and Quantum of Solace and Spectre are not excellent.
but, okay.
Quantum of
I,
Solace
mean,
is
I
fine.
enjoyed Quantum of Solace, but I thought Casino Royale was better.
I mean, if it was, if those two were as good as Casino Royale and Skyfall, yeah, I could sit through that right through No Time to Die and be good. But they weren't. And it would be a slog because it's you watch a good one, you watch a slower one that's not as good, then I don't know.
I mean, if the pattern stays the same, then No Time to Die is going to be excellent. That'd be a great way to end.
Yep. That's true. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to justify why we need to see James Bond at this point. Just fucking see this movie. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
He has miniguns
And
and an Aston Martin. What the fuck more do you need?
Yeah. I guess I'm still trying to figure out. Do we know for sure if this is Craig's last?
The last one was supposed to be his last.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I think they're gonna just up his pay until they find somebody else to take over. That they're really
Okay.
behind. That they're yes, this is our next Bond. Because I feel like there's been times where they've discussed Idris Elba, and then it's but Idris Elba's old as shit now. He's not
Yeah.
had they made him Bond at the same time as Daniel Craig became Bond, it would have worked.
Or even after Skyfall, in my opinion, if they had started. I mean, Skyfall was 7 years ago at this point already.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. They wasted too much time, and I honestly don't know who
You know who
out
it's
there
going to
could
be,
do it.
right?
Would you say, Andy?
You know who it's going to be, right?
No.
Robert Pattinson.
He's just going to take
I-
over everything.
I'd see it.
I thought that was funny.
Mm. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm excited for this movie. This obviously also made my list. Just a step higher. And we talked about it, I think, when we talked about the trailer and stuff like that. But I'm interested to see where it goes. I think Rami Malek being in this movie is going to be cool. I'm excited to see what he does as a villain. Cast is pretty good. It does, I think, like the guys were saying, demand a rewatch of Spectre, which I'm with Josh. I've only seen it once in a theater. That was it. So I definitely need to watch that again. I don't remember liking it or being real thrilled with it after a first viewing, but knowing, I guess, we're at least having an idea where this story's going afterwards, I do think I need to give it another shot.
Spectre has highs and lows.
Yeah. I could see that. Just it feels like it's very connected to Spectre, which is why I need to refresh my memory. With
Yeah,
Spectre.
it definitely is bringing the characters that were in Spectre back around again. So,
anything to add for Bond, James Bond?
This made
Nothing.
my calendar,
Yeah,
and I think it might have been like just on the edge of honorable mentions. And I think the reason why is sort of maybe your apprehension, Brian, with Bad Boys, which was I remember doing. I guess we did a list for 2015, but at that point, like you had just got the show off the ground in like the spring. So I think somewhere like in the summer of 2015, we did like, what are you looking forward to for the rest of the year? And Spectre was on my list for that because I enjoyed Skyfall so much. And then for me, Spectre was so much of a letdown
oh yeah.
that even though No Time to Die looks a lot of fun, Spectre looked a lot of fun to me too. So that's, I think I'm doing the same thing with you. Is like I'm kind of hedging my bet and like hoping that it's a lot better than I'm expecting, but just in case it isn't.
Just a bit outside.
Yeah. That was a major league reference. Good for you.
Yeah. Ball 4, ball 8, ball 12.
Deep cut.
Can't say goddamn on the radio. Doesn't
Matter,
matter.
no
No
one's
one's listening anyway.
Yeah, deep cut. Good job.
All right, so on to Andy's number 7.
My number 7 is Avatar 2.
Wait, that's next year?
According to IMDb, it was.
I thought that was
I feel like
21.
I feel like I didn't see that on my list whenever I was looking. You might have to amend on the fly, Andy.
I feel like at this point, Avatar has been
Yeah, that's
like,
2021.
waiting for so long. I couldn't even keep track anymore.
Yeah, December 17th, 2021. Andy, throw in one of your honorable mentions. Hurry up.
Pinch hit substitution.
I swear I saw it on IMDb in 2020, though.
There's a good chance you did. IMDb can trip me up all the time.
Yeah, I sorry, I don't trust IMDb. Although IMDb, I mean, I don't know, at least right now it does list 2021. I don't know. Either way, do you want to keep that? I'll give you the opportunity to change. Otherwise, we'll have to move on because that's not coming out for another year.
I'd say just bump everything forward and take like an honorable mention and put it in the number 10 slot.
Damn it. All right. Well,
Or just take it on the chin and we'll move on.
I guess I'll just take it on the chin and move on.
All right. Save it for next year. Well, that'll be on your list for next year. All right. So coming back around to Josh for number 7, which we talked about, Death on the Nile.
Yep.
My number 7, we talked about Black Widow. So we're back up to Mike for number 6.
My number 6 is Antlers. This is a very, very interesting looking horror movie. It's like Brian. There's no way I could sell you on this. Like it's
Nope,
impossible.
don't even try.
Josh, I'm sure already knows about this.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks really, really fucking good. Like the hook in the trailer is so damn good at like pulling you in. Like
I forget where we saw, there was a teaser or a full trailer. I know we saw one somewhere. I forget in front of what movie though.
I've seen it a few times.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure in front of Knives Out it was there.
Oh, okay. That could have been it.
And something else that we saw in November, but I can't remember what.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's Kerry Russell and Jesse Plemons, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And Rory Cochrane. Always good to pull Lucas from Empire Records into something.
Yeah, and I think, Brian, to give you an idea, the only thing I could tell you is Guillermo del Toro is involved with the project. He's a producer. He's not really... I don't know how much creative influence he had. It has a bit of a feel like he had some creative influence in the trailers.
Okay.
But he is very good at horror and creatures and things like that. And this just looks... This looks like one of those horror movies that will get that high critic rating that you almost never see.
What is it about? Is there any plot synopsis or anything for this?
I'll read. A small-town Oregon teacher and her brother, who is the local sheriff, become entwined with a young student harboring a dangerous secret with frightening consequences.
All right, so that's really not much to go on.
The trailer kind of shows him slaughtering small animals and taking them to feed something that lives in a cabin with him that he kind of almost refers to as his father. Seemingly. Gotcha. But they don't give you a lot more than that. Like, it's not... These things don't reveal the monster very often in the trailers.
That's fine. I'm not going to see it anyway, but just for the listeners, if anyone's interested.
Yeah, I mean, if you're into horror movies, you know this is coming. Like, to me, I think this is probably, like, if you're looking forward to the year right now, this is probably the second biggest horror movie that'll come out this year.
And when is that movie coming out, Mike?
April 17th, 2020.
Yeah, it's an interesting time slot, but all right.
I mean...
It's right around Bond.
Yeah.
Same day as Bond, maybe.
Didn't, what's it called? A Quiet Place come out in April?
Yeah, you're right.
So, like, quality horror movies have a slot in April. Like, there's a slot there that works for the highbrow horror, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of highbrow horror out there. A lot of it's tits and blood. It is a lot of horror, but yeah.
All right, well, I'll give you and Josh the chance. Add anything else for this one, or
we'll get
move on,
more to this when we do our horror breakdown. I guess I would say, since now I know that we're doing that, I can toss it over to there.
Fair enough. All right, so we're going to Andy's number 6.
My number 6 is James Bond, No Time to Die.
Okay. All right, so we already talked about that, so we'll go over to Josh's number 6.
All right, so number 6 for me is The Eternals. And this is where I was going to pause and sort of go back to the Black Widow discussion for a moment. So there are only 2 comic book movies of all 2020 that are on my top 10. This is the first. And I think the reason that this made the list and Black Widow did not is something that I said to Brian a couple of weeks ago that I think I needed to, like, in my head flesh out the thought better, which is I said something to the effect of I want to slowly fall in love with the MCU again. And not that I fell out of love with them by the end of Endgame. I loved every minute of everything they put out. But now that that whole thing has come to a close, I kind of miss the notion of not knowing what is coming for years. Like not realizing what I'm in the middle of until I'm already several chapters deep. Iron Man comes out in 2008 and people like it a lot. It's an extremely well-made movie. 2 years go by with nothing else happens, at least from Marvel Studios. I think you got like Ghost Rider and Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, from Fox, and I think it was Columbia maybe, or Lionsgate that did Ghost Rider. But 2 whole years go by. No, I'm sorry, that was actually before. Those were both 2007. My mistake. But anyway, you have this vacuum till Iron Man 2 comes out, and everyone's really anticipating it because Iron Man 1 was a slow burn, I think, to the public. It did good at the box office, but it just built and built over those 2 years. And then you had Incredible Hulk around that time, but it really went by a lot of people. No one really saw Incredible Hulk. I think it's actually the lowest performing box office of the entire MCU. And then another whole year goes by, and you got a slow tease at the end of Iron Man 2 for Thor. And then both that and Cap hit in 2011. And it's not really until Avengers, 4 years after the first Iron Man movie, that it all gelled. That the people who had been sticking with them over the couple of years, and then the general audience, really got it. I want to feel that again. I want to experience that again. And I think that's why this intrigues me more than Black Widow. It's, to me, this even more so is way more, this is starting over to me. This is, I don't know, I have no clue about these characters. I don't know what I'm in for, but I want to get on the ride. And if the ride takes 2 years to understand what the ride is, I crave that. I want that.
More to that point, I feel like when you and I were talking about this before, I think it was in the discussion with the Black Widow trailer and some other trailers that had come out at the time. Mm-hmm. So for something like this that you want to go on the ride, are you going to watch trailers for this, or are you going to let it go until it's out to the theater and then try to see it?
That is a good point. I have seen the first Widow trailer, which I commented on that episode in the comments. I think for these, I am going to probably indulge in the first trailer, and that's it. I think
that's probably the safe way to do it. Yeah,
I think the notion of, I think at this point there's no reason to go in 100% blind anymore. Whereas, as the MCU built, especially through Phase 3, mostly each movie, other than, how many new characters? Single movie character movies did we get in Phase 3? We got Doctor Strange, Black Panther, but he was previously introduced in Civil War, and you had Captain Marvel. Wasn't everybody else a sequel?
Yes. Yeah, because Spider-Man was in there.
Spider-Man, Thor, Guardians 2, Ant-Man 2, everybody else was a sequel. So at that point, you're just seeing the next chapter. You're seeing who's, popping in on whose adventure this time around, which was all great. But I didn't want to yet know what to expect, because I was already in. With these, I want the breadcrumbs a little bit more again. I want the tease. I want to be lured into it. I want the anticipation. So I think just getting the first one is the way I'm gonna go. So same with Black Widow. If they put more Black Widow trailers out, I'm not gonna watch them.
So I'm actually probably gonna do the same.
And with it,
the really intriguing thing about the Eternals to me is the last MCU movie that I went into watching, not knowing anything about it, was Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. And I think what I'm doing with this is, in my head, I'm like, Guardians of the Galaxy fucking blew my mind. I feel like I'm enough of a comic book nerd to know a lot of what's happening already before I go into a lot of the movies, and that one I didn't know what to expect, and I was just so excited about it after I saw it that I'm really sort of, I guess, expecting the same thing out of this one.
That's a high bar.
It is. It's a super high bar, and I don't know if it deserves it or not, because I don't even think there's a trailer for it or anything yet. Mm-hmm. So it made my honorable mentions.
Now, Andy, when you say you didn't, did you mean you didn't know anything about the Guardians, or you literally hadn't even seen a trailer for Guardians?
No, I saw a trailer, and that's why I went to go see the movie, but I didn't, comic book wise, I didn't know squat about them other than they're in space.
Yeah. Same. And I thought, and I think, Guardians was like lightning in a bottle, because I think similar to Deadpool in some ways, the marketing was handled differently but it was handled correctly for that property.
Oh yeah, they nailed the marketing for Guardians.
Yeah, like it was not. And no offense to the other marketing teams, but a lot of the other MCU movies, there's a very similar tone and approach to how a trailer is cut and how what story beats might be presented and the feel of it, the look of it, sort of made from the beginning, making the Guardians seem as like the screw up anti-heroes, almost like they're heroes by accident.
Right.
And they're, slackers, and they're not the well put together, machines like Iron Man and Thor are. And yeah, if they maybe, I don't know if they would need to go something similar with the Eternals, but I think if they take just some type of different approach to presenting that, in the way that they did with Guardians, just take a left turn and come about it from a different way than we're normally used to, I think that'll definitely help.
So, Brian, I have an open slot. May I slide Eternals into number 7?
Yes, I will allow that.
Okay.
For me, Eternals is actually my next choice at number 5. And the reason it goes there and above Black Widow and all that is because I feel like this is really where Phase 4 is going to start. I feel
Agreed.
like this is where it's going to kick off. This is where we're going to really start to see what's happening.
And perchance glimpse the next big bad?
Maybe. Maybe not. It depends on what their plan is. I think if their plan
kinda
is
hoping-
multiple phase baddie like Thanos, I
Yeah.
don't think we're seeing him in Eternals.
Well, what I'm kind of hoping is when we actually do get like the big bad reveal, we'll look back on maybe the Eternals and go, "Oh,
Here were the subtle hints.
yeah."
Well, yeah, I mean,
Like we
That'd
don't
be
know. We
excellent.
didn't know it at the time, but when it starts coming about, you're like, "It was all part of his dastardly plan."
they're going to introduce us more to the Celestials than what we've already had. Because, like, I guess technically they decided Ego was a Celestial for the purposes of that story, even though technically in the comics he's not. But I think this will touch more on that. And the thing with the Celestials is there is a lot of villains they could go with that are as much or more of a threat than Thanos, all by themselves. So it will be interesting to see where they head. And I think we may get hints, kind of what Andy's saying, in Eternals. That, we look back on.
Yeah, I think I'm more in line with Andy. This is right now on an honorable mention list for me. Maybe I'm just a little gun shy with my list this year. I'm trying to hedge my bets a little bit because we don't really know anything about it. There's a lot of potential here. I'm with you with the Guardians comparisons. Had we got a trailer for this, I think it probably could have cracked my top 10. But the trailers for me give me a tone and a feel for what these movies could be, and without knowing anything about it, I think I'm still a little hesitant.
Sure.
So yeah, it's on my honorable mentions, but I am looking forward to it. We'll see for sure. All right, so that was Josh's number 6. So we're on to my number 6. My number 6 we talked about, which is No Time to Die.
Yep.
Hey, we're 6 buddies.
That's right. So we'll loop around to Mike for his number 5, which we just talked about, which was Eternals. So we're on to Andy's number 5.
My number 5 is Free Guy. And I didn't know anything about this movie until the trailer breakdown. I think I almost live was watching it with you guys for the first time, and I was just like, this is cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I saw a trailer for it in front of Star Wars as well as a bunch of other trailers, and this is the trailer that had me smiling at the end, like, yeah, I want to see that,
Yeah.
And I think Ryan Reynolds has another hit on his hands, and I just think it looks really fun.
Yeah, this also made my list a little bit higher, too. We talked about it on the trailer breakdown. It's a video game movie, which is not based on a video game, but has a video game feeling. And for a big video game fan, that is definitely in my wheelhouse. Ryan Reynolds looks great. Sean Levi or Levy directing gives me confidence. I really like him as a director and the kind of heart that he brings into movies. So I think this could be surprisingly have a good heart to it and something solid in the story that we're probably not expecting. So I am confident in this one.
It doesn't make my list, but it is definitely something that could have been an honorable mention if I had
So it's
allowed
on your
myself.
calendar.
Well, I didn't allow myself as many honorable mentions as you guys did. So, nonetheless, it's something that I'm definitely going to see in the theater. Looks amazing. I love that Hollywood is investing more and more into Ryan Reynolds because of Deadpool.
Yeah.
You know, we're seeing a lot more of him than we used to in, you know, AAA films, if you will. High budget, big time films. And that's great.
Josh, any thoughts for Free Guy?
It looks very, very fun. Definitely on the calendar. Looks just like a good time movie experience. Like if it doesn't have to be world changing, but if I come out after that 2 hours and just think, God damn, that was fun.
Yeah,
that's good enough for me.
All right, so let's go to Josh's number 5.
My 5 is the only other comic book movie that appears on my list, and Wonder Woman 1984 made the 10 and made it to number 5.
Okay.
I wasn't quite sure how I felt about everything. See, putting together this year, like I knew there was like the top 3 were going to be really pretty much solidly there, and then the other 7 and the 10 were like, well, I don't really know how strongly, if I really feel more strongly about this one than that one. And then, well, 2 or 3 honorable mentions and then everything else on the calendar, basically.
Yeah.
With the Wonder Woman sequel, I had to think back, like, how did I feel going into 2017, waiting for the first one, and then how did I come out at the end of 2017 after seeing it? And I'll be honest, there's a little bit less of a gut punch anticipation for this than the first one based on the trailer, but admittedly the aesthetic of her being thrown into World War I is for me a little bit more compelling, of like inserting such a wild card type of fictional character into a real life setting that way, as opposed to now we find her in 1984. But when it comes down to it, I enjoyed the first movie immensely. I think they can only improve on their strengths and only get better at addressing any potential lower points. I'm really intrigued to understand. I think you guys talked about it with the trailer breakdown, like, okay, so what the hell's going on with Steve? What's that explanation? What's it ultimately going to be? And I'm actually really into. I love the fact that the trailer gave nothing away about Cheetah. I really do.
Yeah.
And for anybody of an antagonist nature, they really just focused on Pedro Pascal. But you really don't even know what he's really about. This is one I definitely will not watch any more trailers for. I don't really want to yet know what the movie's about.
Right.
But the imagery that we got out of that first full-blown trailer a few weeks ago, and what I think I'm in store for, was definitely enough to get it this high up.
Yeah, so Josh stole my number 5, which was his Wonder Woman. So I'm right in there with you. I think coming out of the way I felt about Wonder Woman, the first one, after seeing it, gives me high hopes for this one. And of course, we just got the trailer a couple weeks ago, so that I think pushed it up to the top half of my list. It probably would have been bottom half without the trailer. That trailer gets me hyped.
Yeah. Is what was her name? Patty Jenkins coming back to direct this
Yes,
one
she
as
is.
well?
Yes.
Okay.
So that gives me confidence also. And
Yeah.
I'm with Josh. The mystery of it, from this trailer, they still haven't given anything away. I'm going to try to avoid everything else also. I think going into it clean from here is good. I want to see where it goes.
Right.
And I just looked back at my 2017 list. That movie was number 4 anticipated and ended up as number 6 on the favorites. So I think this is a good solid place, literally right between those two slots to be. And like I said, I think they can only improve on what was already really good.
Andy, you missed a 2.
I did.
You said between those 2 slots. You missed it.
Ah, damn it.
Fix it in post.
This also made my list, albeit higher. I'm
wow.
really excited for it.
Anything else to add for Wonder Woman, or we'll go on to Mike's number 4?
I
I guess because we already talked about my number 5. My number 5 is the same, so we can go.
I would just add lastly, I'm glad that they decided to move it back to June as opposed to the December. Like, it was supposed to be out now, and then when Skywalker got moved or announced officially, whatever you want to call it, to December, then Warner Brothers punted and moved it back to June of the following year.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really good slot for it, and I think right after Memorial Day, you're going to get a few of the movies that vie for big Memorial Day box office out of the way, and school is out. I mean, this is basically where it landed in 2017. It's a bit like right around the same exact weekend.
Right.
And I think that's a really good sweet spot for it.
Yeah. All right, so Mike's number 4.
We've already talked about it. It is Dune at number 4 for me.
Wow, that is pretty high.
Okay.
Oh, wow, that made it really high, especially not knowing too much about it.
I really like the first one.
Did you see the sci-fi miniseries that came out at what?
No.
Okay.
I was never one that got into the sci-fi stuff because the production value with sci-fi just was so off for me on almost everything. It couldn't.
Okay. I was just curious.
All right, Andy, you're number 4.
My number 4 we already talked about is Black Widow.
Okay. Josh, number 4.
So I'm assuming that I have this the lowest on my list out of anybody, at least Brian and Mike, I'm assuming. My number 4 is Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Blasphemy.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to defend why that is. It just is what it is to me.
Well, Josh, you didn't get a chance to talk. You missed that episode when we talked about the trailer. So now, having seen the trailer, is there anything you want to elaborate with?
Not as much. I think and I'll be honest, the way that I've heard Jason Reitman talking about this movie for the last year has given me more confidence that it'll be really solid. And the way that the movie looks so far, call it the color palette, the lighting, the fact that it looks like they're, shooting in actual open sky towns somewhere, the tone's not the right word, but like the cinematography, the look of it so far, I like that. Like, it looks less like it looks less like a Hollywood movie than even the first 2 Ghostbusters. Like, the first 2 Ghostbusters look like it's on a film camera. And not to tell the difference between like, oh, that's a film camera versus digital now. Just the look of it. Like, that looks like, those 2 movies look like movies. This doesn't look like a movie, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It looks a bit more the way it's shot to just look like someone's happens to be capturing real life happening.
Gotcha. Okay.
And like I said, I'm sure it's higher on other people's lists. I'm partially surprised it even made it this high on mine. I've just come to the point where I'm partially expecting to be let down by things that I'm super psyched for just because they exist.
Yeah.
But I think I have enough confidence in these couple of things, especially like I said, anytime I hear Reitman do an interview, I think he did an episode of Smodcast with Kevin Smith like earlier this year, like early in the year, and it was right after the teaser trailer came out. Was that like last year at this point or something? That they just showed you like the barn with the Ecto-1 license plate come up. And like hearing that deep dive on it really gave me confidence. So yeah, can't wait till August. Or no, that's July. That's mid-July.
Yeah. Yeah, this is higher on my list for sure.
It's
If you
higher
heard
on
us
mine as well.
the trailer reaction we did, if you heard me gush about it for 30 minutes, I think you can assume where this is going to fall on my list.
Pretty sure it's in the same place.
Okay.
So, yeah, listen to our review of the trailer to have a better understanding of why Brian and I put it so high. And Andy. So,
Yeah, I'm curious if Andy's in the same spot as we are. If it's because I feel like coming out of that trailer review, I thought it was going to be your number one. So I'm curious if it is your number one.
Yeah.
We'll see when we get there.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I'm burying
This
the
is
lead here.
spoilers.
So we'll go on to my number 4. My number 4 we already talked about was Free Guy. So we'll go on to Mike's number 3.
My number 3. No surprise here. These movies show up every time high on my list and then end up disappointing me, but this is Godzilla vs. Kong.
Wow.
Nice.
You know, I could tell you about the cast. Doesn't matter. It's Godzilla versus King Kong. That
Right.
Godzilla and
I
King
know.
Kong are in this movie.
Yeah, I know a lot of people didn't care for Godzilla War of the Monsters, but I really did enjoy that movie.
The first time I watched it, I was not as pleased, but it has since grown on me.
Yeah.
I've only seen it once, and it did not leave me with the best feelings after the movie. So I didn't even put this in honorable mentions for me.
Like,
This is on my calendar, like Josh. I will see Godzilla vs. Kong,
Mhm.
but coming off of how I felt after King of Monsters, I just couldn't put it on my list.
watch it again.
This is on my list a little bit higher.
Watch King of the Monsters again. Give it another chance. That's what I did, and I came out of it saying, you know, I was a little bit too harsh on this movie the first time around.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, because I will say, like, Kong's Skull Island or whatever it was called,
Yeah.
that's still god awful. Like, I could watch it for a little bit, but I can't watch that in one sitting anymore. It's just not good.
I didn't hate it, but
King of the Monsters, I came out of that and I was like, this wasn't very good. I watched it again and I was like, the things that bothered me don't bother me anymore.
Gotcha. All right.
It has enough cool scenes.
that one I feel like that one's sort of a slow burn, where the more you think about it, the more you'll watch it. You're like, this actually isn't terrible.
Yeah, like you look forward to the awesome scenes they put in it. This one,
Which are awesome.
yeah, the one I always think of is like that deep sea scene when they're in that bunker underwater, and Godzilla's lighting himself up. Like
It's cool.
That's an awesome
So
scene.
cool.
So I look forward to what we're gonna get. From the looks of like the only art we have, looks like
Godzilla's gonna win.
it looks like Kong's bigger than Godzilla. He's looking like they're face to face, and Kong is taller.
Huh.
So
Godzilla's still gonna beat his ass.
I think this is called Versus, but I think they're gonna team up because we know, like
It's the BBS movie, but with
Yeah.
Kong and Godzilla.
yeah, like we know that Ghidorah's not actually dead. If you watch, there's a post-credit scene. I don't know if you're aware of that with King of the Monsters. Ghidorah is not dead. Like at one point, one of the heads gets cut off, and the body regrows it. Said head is discovered by Charles Dance's crew. I don't remember their name or the character's name, but so my guess is they fight, they have a battle, and it comes to a draw. Probably, they probably don't let people have a winner. Kind of like the Hulk versus Thor thing. You don't get a winner.
Yeah.
And then Ghidorah comes back and causes all sorts of problems, and they have to team up to finally kill a stronger, somehow, version of Ghidorah. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I think that's a solid bet. Josh, anything to add for this one?
It's same. It's on the calendar, and I will take Mike's advice and eventually rewatch King of the Monsters, because I do remember him saying a couple of weeks after. Mike, did you get it on? Did you rent it, or did
No,
you
I
go
bought
back to the theater?
I bought it on digital.
Okay, so yeah, I think that was it. Like you said, after it came out, you revisited and had a better reaction. So I'll probably do that. I was surprised. I thought this was going to be like another like Memorial Day weekend type of thing, but this is, I guess, pushed back to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, November 20th. Yep.
I
Which I
think
think
they
is a
saw
very
an
odd
open
time.
slot at Thanksgiving to not have to compete with a lot of stuff, and they just went
just
for it.
an odd time to me for a movie like this. But I guess when else are you going to if other times seem crammed?
Yeah, I mean, we've argued that for years, that if the summer gets jam-packed with all these movies, there's no reason to put your movie a week ahead of something that's going to blow you out the next weekend.
Yeah, and I think they're figuring
Pick a
that
time
out.
when there's nothing else going on.
You can put a blockbuster in November, and it will work. You can put a blockbuster in February. It will work. As long as you have this awesome movie, people are going to go see it.
Yeah.
And I hope it ends up being a good move for them, because it also, I mean, not to say this would have been, taking away from it, but when, Warner, is this Warner Brothers as well?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe this is part of it. When they delayed the third Fantastic Beasts movie, that was supposed to be every 2 years, basically in November. That was the original announcement, and they delayed the third one from 2020 to 2021. So that, basically opened up. That probably would have been November 20th. Literally would have probably been the slot for Fantastic Beasts 3.
Yeah.
So they just sort of sidled that right in there.
Anything else for Godzilla vs. Kong?
Nope.
Nothing? All right, Andy, you're number 3.
My number 3, we already talked about, is Wonder Woman 1984.
You okay? Josh, number 3.
So my number 3, I will first have to give big thanks to Mike for introducing us to A Quiet Place in his 2018 anticipated show, because I had no idea that movie existed until he brought that up. And then I saw a trailer in the interim, and then it came out in April, and then I freaking loved it. If anyone has seen the teaser, which is a true teaser, goddamn, that's the way teasers should go back to being made, for A Quiet Place 2, it's only 30 seconds, it's amazing. This is coming a little bit earlier, it's like 2 weeks earlier, it's like late March for the sequel. But yeah, my number 3 is A Quiet Place Part 2.
Okay.
That other big, huge horror movie that I was referring to was this one, as being like that other
Of the two.
Yeah. There's a third that I don't think is going to be as big, that has a name but is not quite as big.
I could guess what it is. I'll wait, but
Well, I mean, I can say it now.
we'll
It's
debate
not
that
on
later.
it's not on my list. It's not on your list. The Conjuring 3.
oh, okay.
I don't think it's going to be as big as either of these movies. I feel like these two are going to be home runs. Conjuring 3, they're starting to stretch.
Yeah, it could be. We'll get deeper into that because I have thoughts.
So I don't have anything to contribute for The Quiet Place, or A Quiet Place. So that's all you guys.
That movie was not, like I said, not on my anticipated list for 2018. I didn't even know it existed until Mike brought it up during that episode discussion. And if I look back real quick, it was number 3 on my favorites of 2018. And so This is literally just mirroring where that ended up as my anticipated.
Andy, anything to add for this one?
I never saw the first one. I heard good things.
I would.
What's
Did you though?
It's a quiet place, and you heard good things.
Andy, I would say, try to get to it before this hits theaters so that you can see this in theaters.
Okay.
I think the experience of watching, and I'd be curious actually. I want to talk about that after you watch it, because I want to see what maybe somewhat of a comparable experience is of seeing this just at home as opposed to in a room with many people in the dark just by the light of the screen, where nobody made a sound in that theater for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like people
In the
were
movie
scared
itself
to
is
make noise.
99% quiet.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot
It's
of
really cool.
sign language and things like that. It was a really cool concept for a horror movie.
And yeah, I think the experience of seeing it in public in a big room, well, a room bigger than your living room, with a lot of people who, like I said, people were just afraid to make the noise of opening their candy because they didn't want to break the mood. Like, to me, like, you got sucked into the world so quickly that you're like, I don't want to slurp my drink because somehow that will interrupt the proceedings of the story.
And there's me chewing ice. Just like, fuck it.
Oh, that was you. I thought so.
Yeah, it was 2 theaters over.
So yeah,
It's still here.
I would, yeah, Andy, I would definitely say if you think it could interest you, try to watch the first one before this, just so you can have the experience of seeing this in the theater. I think it's really cool.
Okay.
All right, so we'll move on to my number 3. My number 3 is Tenet. Tenet, sorry, yeah. Christopher Nolan's next one, which looks like a meld between spy and time travel, which I'm here for it. I don't fucking know what's going on. Trailer's confusing. I don't care. Those are 2 genres I adore, so I have to see what this is. And the trailer, like, just hearing the name and Christopher Nolan, you're like, okay, we'll see what happens. And the trailer is hooked me on sheer curiosity. I want to see what the hell this movie is. So yeah, it's up there for
This
me.
is my number 2. So,
Wow.
I will say, did you get a chance in front of Star Wars to see the prologue?
No, I did not see it there.
Okay.
Oh no, did we
I
miss
don't know.
that, or did they not show it?
It was only shown in IMAX,
Oh, okay.
so I saw it on my second viewing.
Mm-hmm.
And Friday,
Like, they played a trailer for Tenet, but not a prologue.
yeah, this was like a whole separate thing. Like, this was, I have to look and see how long it was. It was between 5 and 10 minutes of
Okay.
like a whole scene played out that they announced as a prologue. So this is not stuff that's in the movie. This is just a prologue that you got at the theater if you were there to see it there, that I'm sure at some point
interesting.
they'll release to like YouTube and things like that. But for now, I guess it'll be like stuck there.
So, Mike, you said, I think it was you, right, that said that you saw Dunkirk, but it really didn't do much for you.
Yeah.
So I saw Dunkirk, and I think I liked it quite a bit. I still haven't seen Interstellar, which I mean to. I think I've had it sitting on my shelf for like 5 years. I just never put it in. But this, I just watched the trailer for this morning. I must have missed it in front of Skywalker. Maybe it's when I ran to the bathroom before the movie started. But this is the first one of his stuff since Inception, that you mentioned, that reminds me of something, like just by the trailers. Like, from what I've heard that Interstellar kind of gets into, I don't remember that being any part of the advertising for it. And maybe they couldn't give too much away in the trailers, because then it just like,
I think it's more that, yes.
right? Like, it's one of those things, like, I can't really tell you what the movie's about, because that in and of itself spoils why the movie and the story is unique and why it's cool.
Right.
And I feel like
Yeah.
maybe that was the problem with Interstellar. But this reminds me of Inception, like seeing the previews initially for Inception, like, oh, okay, what the hell's going on here? This is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say definitely has that feel. And Interstellar, by the way, watch it. It's awesome.
Alright.
I didn't like Dunkirk, but I felt like I didn't feel like the reason I didn't like Dunkirk was of any fault of Christopher Nolan's, other than it wasn't a story that I felt like I wanted to see. I feel like Christopher Nolan is better when he's creative and he's not following history in that sense. 'Cause, like, if he's making it up, he does pretty damn good. Following real events, he didn't, like, I don't think it was his fault. I just think I was not as into that story itself. And
Fair.
he, unless he was going to rewrite history, all he really is doing is making a screenplay for a story that already exists. So,
Fair.
um,
So, Brian, sorry we kind of hijacked your entry. Is there anything else you want to tell us
No,
about
it's
your
fine.
movie?
No, yeah, I don't. There isn't much that I know, and I think that's what's interesting to me.
I have yet to see a preview for it, Tenet.
Yeah.
It, based on what you guys are saying, though, it looks like it's something that I will probably end up seeing.
Okay. Yeah, watch the trailer. I think it's confusing as hell. You're still not really sure what the hell's going on, but god damn it, the trailer hooked me enough that I'm just, like I said, sheer curiosity is making me want to see this movie.
You know what I just realized? It has a flavor of in my mind. Did anyone ever see, what's it called? The Investment Bureau?
Adjustment Bureau. Matt Damon, Emily Blunt.
And, I think Mackie is in it, maybe.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Kind of has some feels like that to me, as well as like all
Oh,
the Nolan
okay.
flavors.
That was good. I like that movie.
It's got a lot going on, and
Yeah.
This trailer's probably enough for me. Like, I'm going to watch this one trailer and that's it. I don't want the trailers to tell me anything more about this movie because I just want to see how this unfolds.
I agree. I don't need any more. Like, I was waiting for that first trailer because I knew about this movie before the trailer came out because it was like, I'd read an article about it where they said something like he was intentionally being very vague and wouldn't tell many people about what the plot was or how it worked or anything. And
Mike, your boy Robert Pattinson's in it.
well, I'm willing to give him a shot, man. I'm not, if he's going to be Batman, I got to start either deciding if I'm on board or not. And I got to start watching movies that, aren't Twilight trash with him in it. I think the only movie I've seen with him in it other than those is Harry Potter. So I got to start.
Mm.
Yeah, apparently it sounds like you might want to give The Lighthouse a try, because I think that's going to be one of the many like indie movies that just, it's like all over award season from what I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, when that comes to Rent, I'll get to it.
Yeah. I don't have, like I said, I don't have too much else to add to it other than like it looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool. The cast, like you said, Robert Pattinson, looks like John David Washington's the lead. Aaron Taylor Johnson, Clemence Posey, Michael Caine, Kenneth Branagh, and then a bunch of people you never heard of.
Yeah. All right, so that's my number 3. So snapping back around to Mike, his number 2 was also the same movie. So we are on to Andy for number 2.
My number 2 is Godzilla vs. Kong.
Oh, okay. Godzilla vs. Kong. And that brings us to Josh's number 2.
I will be surprised if this is on anyone else's list, especially since we're this high at this point. But I have been excited about this movie for like a year. My number 2 is the sequel to Coming to America.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Coming to America.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coming to America 2 at my number 2 slot. It's all about the deuce. I have this maybe surprisingly surprisingly strong affection for a lot of good 80s comedies of the Eddie Murphy era, Dan Aykroyd. I could rattle off a bunch, I'm sure, if I needed to put together a list, but like Trading Places is one of my favorite movies of all time. And so is Coming to America. I think it was like there was this like rotating set of movies that played all the time on like TNT and TBS in like the late 90s especially. Right. And although edited for TV, like Coming to America was on so much. I freaking love that movie. I love Arsenio Hall and Eddie Murphy playing all the multiple characters. I love the Soul Glow hair product. I love the McDowells, McDonald's ripoff gimmick. Everything about that movie I absolutely love. And when I heard like they're legit making a sequel, the whole cast is coming back. Yeah, I think it was a little over a year ago. I think I got like confirmation that they were going into pre-production for real, finally, and I'm okay with it. The only thing.
What's the release date on that right now?
As of now, it's looking like it's a December release as well. Give me a quick second. I'll find when the first one was 1988, and it was June. It's late June of '88, and this sequel looks like it's going to be December.
So I'm wondering if there's a chance that could get pushed to 2021. December release dates for me are always really finicky.
Quite true. it's December. As of now, it's looking like December 18th, which is the same date as what else did we just talk about?
Especially as if we're a year out too. That's usually a good time to switch some release dates around.
Yeah, like as of now, Coming to America, Dune, and I know we're not even going to talk about it because of that point, but Uncharted, as of now, apparently has a December 18th, 2020 release date. We know that's not happening.
I was gonna say I put Uncharted as my honorable mention because I was damn well sure it was not gonna make.
Yeah, like it hasn't even
2020
started
release
to be
date.
made.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wrote that off as a chance to even happen this year. It was just no.
I mean, it depends. Like Coming to America, I'm gonna say, like, let's be honest, probably has two target audiences. One, the Black community. Number two, the non-Black community who has an affinity for that era comedy movie.
Yeah.
And wants to see this sequel. Is Christmas time a good spot for a movie like that? Probably. If it happens to get pushed a couple of weeks into January or maybe February, is it still like a nice spot for it? Probably. But I think, like I said, it's in pre-production or it's already being shot, so it doesn't seem, out of the question that it could hit a December release.
Right, and that's not a movie you're worried about special effects being done in a year's time or anything like that. So,
exactly.
But
So
I'm
probably
more confident in it sticking than other movies.
Yeah, it's
but
probably not going to get
just
pushed up, but it could get
right.
could get pushed back a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's a couple new people joining the cast, like Wesley Snipes, for instance, Leslie Jones, Tracy Morgan. But like the people that they have got back, like they have James Earl Jones and John Amos and Arsenio Hall, Louis Anderson. I think the person who plays Queen Lisa by the end and Lisa's sister, like everyone that I can tell that was in the first movie who's still alive is back, and this is incredible. The only thing that gives me pause is from what I understand the premise to be, which is Akeem goes back to the U.S. because he has a son that he didn't know about, which I suppose they're gonna quasi try to retcon and say, like, during his journey to find his bride the first time, he must have had a couple of hookups in that process, and this was the result of one of those. It's not. I don't think they're going the route like he cheated on Lisa and has a son back in America. So initially that premise might be a little bit of a stretch to buy, but I'm hoping that there is a little bit of an Eddie Murphy renaissance on the horizon. I'm really hoping for that, and so given that, I think that story choice will be something that I will find out is something that I can get over, and it's okay.
If this leads to Beverly Hills Cop 4,
That's what that's
cool
what I
with
was
that.
going to say. If this was Beverly Hills Cop 4, it would be right there on my list at the same level for you. And Eddie Murphy was just recently on Saturday Night Live. I have not watched the episode yet, but evidently he killed it. And all I could think when I heard that is he's going to have to come back and do that again, because this is not like the marketing season for the movie he's putting out.
Right, and I heard someone make a comment because I think that was. So we're recording this on a Sunday the 28th. I think he hosted not 2 days ago, but like the week before.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever that date was, the 19th. And someone made the comment that they should, at least for the next couple of years, make a point of just having Eddie Murphy be the Christmas break episode host. And they said it worked really well. They knew they were going out for a couple of weeks after that, and just it was a really good slot for them. So yeah, that would line up really well to do like in a late November or maybe early December hosting gig for him around this time next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am 100% all in for this.
Anybody else got anything to add? I don't have too much to add for this one.
I'm going to watch it eventually.
Yeah,
I don't know about theaters. I don't do theater comedies very often.
Okay.
But yeah.
If anyone has not, I will honestly say, full recommendation. If anyone listening has never seen Coming to America from 1988, find it from your library or rent it on demand or Prime, whatever, for a couple of bucks. It is 100% totally worth it. It is great.
Fucking Gen Z
I'll be.
hasn't seen this shit.
I feel like I've seen bits and pieces of it, like on the all those replays that you talked about, Josh, on like TBS and all this stuff like that. I don't think I've actually sat down and watched it, so I think it's something I do need to do.
It is a very good movie. You would enjoy it.
One of my very favorite bits of it, still, and I still do this in my own head because no one else. This isn't one of those movies that you can easily like throw out a line anymore that, especially people of our generation, pick up on and like know right away. So all the banter that occurs between the guys that work at the barbershop, where Eddie Murphy and Arsenio are just playing all these different characters themselves, is some of my favorite stuff ever.
It's incredibly
Good
good
scene.
editing as well to get comedic timing down when you're talking to yourself in different shots where you're in a different costume hours later recording the same line back to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's some pretty good work they did with that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. Good, an official movie slut recommendation.
All right, so that was Josh's number 2. On to my number 2. My number 2 is Top Gun Maverick.
Oh.
I thought, Josh, this was going to make your list.
God,
It did
no.
not. I'm a little disappointed.
No, I'm like I think we talked about this. I'm sure I will be dragged is maybe too harsh of a word. That's maybe not. That's too mean to say. But I will be taken to the theater
Yeah.
to see this. But no, it did not make the list.
And I don't like the first one doesn't really, I feel like, hold that much of a nostalgic part for me. Like, I didn't think it did, but this trailer gets me excited.
Okay.
And I think, one, just the people involved, and two, the technical aspect of what they seem to be doing for this movie and what they are actually filming is mind-blowing to me.
I will say the last couple Mission Impossible movies, knowing, like you said, like technically and realistically what has gone into making those, that you're not just seeing CGI everywhere, that you're not, that you know, and it is a big selling point in many of these things that, yes, the actual actors in some of these cases are behind it. It's not I'm sitting on a trailer rig while the camera's on me.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a positive.
I didn't see the prologue for Tenet before Star Wars, but they did show an IMAX preview of Top Gun, which is a little bit behind the scenes of what they were doing, and the camera rigs that they put up in the planes, and they put actors in the planes, and Tom Cruise is flying this shit. Like, I think at the same time he's training to be like fly helicopters for Mission Impossibles, he's taking lessons to fly fighter jets and shit. So by the time they shoot Top Gun, he is flying jets. It's nuts. The director for this one, Joseph Kosinski, directed 2 other movies of mine that I think are very, personal favorites, which is Tron Legacy and Oblivion. Which was also with Tom Cruise.
Both very good movies.
Yes.
I think the style of those are really cool. He directs action very well. Yeah. So and just bringing back a lot of the original cast and stuff like that, like having Tom Cruise back. I'm anxious to see how they allude to, like, it seems like Miles Teller, I think, is playing like Goose's son. So I want to see just like what happens to these characters in 30, 40 years. Like where are they at? What's the next generation like? And stuff that I never really thought about asking after the first Top Gun, but now that you're giving it to me, I want to see it.
I mean, this didn't make my list, and it's one of those things where I think, like, this didn't make my top 10 here, but it has a shot at making my top 10 after I see it. And I feel like Tom Cruise movies do that to me a lot, where I underestimate them and I play it off like I don't know, like, it looks cool as shit, but I feel like it's an honorable mention, but it's not. Like, for me, I didn't have that connection to the first movie enough to draw me to it. But,
and I guess that's the thing for me. Like, I didn't think I did either, but seeing this trailer got me unbelievably more excited than I ever thought I'd be for this sequel. That I'm like, well, fuck, it's got to be on my list now.
I feel like the audio, like the music, the tones of the, like, or not the tones, but the sounds of the jet engines and what they're doing, it all works so well together that, it's easy to get hyped.
And I feel like full well, just the way the shots and the in-cockpit stuff that's going to happen in this movie, that I'm going to be probably nauseous watching this in the theater, but I'm going to go see this in the theater.
This made the top of my honorable mentions list.
Okay.
I mean, if you need somebody to watch it with you, I'll be there, but you need to bring a bucket because you're not throwing up on me.
Yeah,
Well, you know you'll have Sarah right next to you as well.
that's right. Worst comes to worst, Josh. If you do not want to go, I think me and your wife can go.
She absolutely. If she was making a list for this episode, this would probably be in the top 3. And I will at least give it this point. I think you're right. The theater experience for what they've created for this is probably the best way to view it.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. All right. Anything else for Top Gun? Nothing. On to Mike's number 1.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Since we got to that point of either your and Andy's list, and it still hasn't been mentioned, I think it's safe to say they're going there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I actually just did a double feature of Ghostbusters 1 and 2 on Friday. And
You didn't save Ghostbusters 2 for New Year's Eve?
no, I have a personal plan for that actually. I'm going to watch Return of the Jedi,
Okay.
and I'm going to try and time it so that we're celebrating and singing Yub Nub right as the ball drops.
So, completely off. Well, not off topic, but really like off list topic. Along trying to plan something to coincide with like Stroke of Midnight, I saw something today that said if you start the song "Blind" by Korn at a very specific time at like 11:59 and certain seconds, that just as it's hitting midnight, Jonathan Davis screams out the "Are you ready?" part. I wonder how many of those things exist where someone's like, "Oh, cue, whatever it is up at a certain point," so that at midnight, there's probably a list out there somewhere.
There's one out there for every way you party.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something out there for whatever you do. And, but back to the 2, watching them, and it was just like, I can't fucking wait for this movie. Like, all the more, and I watched, there's a new series that came from, like, the toys that made us. There's the movies that made us. And they have one that's focused on Ghostbusters, and I actually watched that the day before, and I was like, shit, now I have to watch those movies right now.
Those were interesting. Sarah and I watched that one and the one on Die Hard.
Yeah, I did that too.
And this is the first time in a long time on my anticipated list that there is not a Marvel or Star Wars movie, and it might be the first time ever, if I'm not mistaken, that it's not Marvel or Star
Out of the
Wars.
3 or 4 years we've done it, then yes, probably that is probably
I've done
right.
it since 2016, I believe. I think that was as far back as my list went. And I just look at it, and everything I see is Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, all at the top of my list. And so I am really glad for that, honestly, that there's something else out there that is that appealing. And I'm super glad that it's Ghostbusters. Let's put it that way.
Andy, we'll just sort of run over to your number 1 since it's the same movie. Anything you want to add?
I'm just super excited about it.
Short and sweet.
I mean, we
like
talked
it.
about this not long ago. So
Yeah.
you can get our full impressions there.
So on to Josh's number 1 then.
The weird black sheep here.
Yeah. There
Not
he is.
Ghostbusters, you blasphemy.
I was surprised as I was whittling this down that this
Fast and Furious 9.
yeah, right. Yeah, I also noticed that did not make anybody's list, by the way.
It's on my honorable mentions. I was going to bring it up.
I knew this was going to be in the 10, and I'm really shocked that as I was rearranging, I just left it where it is. Number 1 is Halloween Kills. It's the sequel to
I know
the
nothing about
reboot
that.
of the Halloween, so the reignition, I'll call it, of the Halloween franchise. We're going to get back-to-back in October of 20 and October 21, at least these 2 sequels, which hopefully maybe finally are just the end. But I enjoyed this reignition enough that if they're gonna keep going, I think I liked it enough that if I had to like pick one movie that I know no matter what I am not nervous about, that I know will get me pumped. It's around Halloween time, my favorite time of year. It sits at the top.
Fair enough.
I think for me, the reason like this movie doesn't make my list is similar to what you were saying, in
What's
that it shouldn't be made. It was a fitting end at the end of the last movie, and I would have liked that to be the end. I would have liked
Agreed.
them to make it the end. So it's not necessarily the fact that I'm not still like pumped to see this, because I am.
They
But
need
I'm
to-
also like,
they need to earn your dollar.
well, no, I'm like, wrap the fucking story up for once. You know,
Fair.
make a statement that, you know, we don't have to rely on just this character that was created, and that we don't have to rely on, you know, making crazy numbers of sequels. Make a quality film that wraps a story up completely in a final solution. And I'm not talking like Jason Goes to Hell final, you know, like actually final.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to see. And that's what I thought I had seen with that Halloween movie. But then come the very end of it, you're like, well, then they just locked him in a basement and assumed he burned to death? Guess they needed to leave this open-ended so that they could make more money off of it. And that's where I'm like,
just a little bit enough. Yeah.
they were just this close to making Halloween, this Halloween, into a top quality movie, not just
Mhm.
fun horror. And they just didn't. And so, like, I'm still pumped. I'm still going to go see it in the theater. I'm just like, I wish I was more pumped.
I get you.
Andy, you got anything to add for Halloween?
I didn't see the reignition of it, so I can't really talk much about it.
Sorry for
Okay.
spoilers, my bad.
seemed
I want to say you spoiled that for me once before. So.
Okay, well, fair enough.
in case you forgot
In case you forgot,
Yeah.
and you wipe that slate clean.
And-
We don't want
make sure you,
So you
Forget
could
that.
say this is number 2.
to. And with that,
uh,
I think we've reached the end.
moving on. Yeah, we're my number one. We already talked about Ghostbusters. It's interesting to me that the three of us actually all have Ghostbusters at the top. So there is a very high bar for Ghostbusters now, and I'm curious to see where this is going to end up at the end of 2020.
Yeah. If I may, like, for a group that at least probably among the three of you, if this was a Star Wars year, for instance, that particular movie would probably be in each of your top 2, most likely.
There's a good bet. Yeah.
So you guys are like very much on the same wavelength there. But I think maybe with Andy or Mike, was it you that made the point that like I feel like a breath of fresh air this year. That yes, there are 2 Marvel movies, there's a DC movie, but like for me, there's no Harry Potter movie, and there's no Star Wars movie. So like I feel like there's more room in culture and in my brain this year for a couple different things that hasn't been there.
Yeah, I think our favorites for 2020 are going to be very interesting without those big staples in there.
yeah, I feel like I'm perfectly fine with that. Like, we've been inundated with a lot of Marvel, a lot of Star Wars for the last several years, and it's been amazing. But like you said, the breath of fresh air, a little bit of the release of like all the pressure and buildup that we've dealt with for so long with the Marvel universe,
Mm-hmm.
and the same for Star Wars, just that buildup of what's going to happen. Now it's all happened. And we've had this, storylines end, and we're okay. And going into this year, we don't have that. We don't have those story threads in these major franchises that we love hanging there.
Yeah.
So I like that as a change. I'm looking forward to the new story threads that are going to be left hanging there. But
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I'm very much into the idea that this year is not looking the same as every one of the last 6.
And here's to hoping Ghostbusters doesn't suck.
I agree.
Because you hedged no bets on that.
That's
So,
right. All my eggs are in that basket.
I only have one movie that was any honorable mention sort of thing left that I didn't mention at all. Does anybody else have any that
I
didn't
have
get mentioned?
We'll just quickly go around the
Yeah,
horn.
I've-
So, Mike, you're up first. Honorable mentions.
The
what
only
do you
one
got?
I have that wasn't mentioned in any way is Monster Hunter. If you like the Monster Hunter video games,
I didn't even know they were making that. I just saw it on the list just now, so I don't know anything. I never played any of the Monster Hunters. I've always wanted to.
Monster Hunter games are awesome. Especially like if you like Godzilla versus Kong and you like that type of thing, it's you fighting them instead. Maybe not as big in all cases, but it's still Monster Hunter's an awesome game. And this movie, the reason it doesn't make my top 10 and it's just an honorable mention is it's the first time in 16 years that Paul W.S. Anderson is not making a Death Race or Resident Evil title.
Evil movie. Yeah. But he's still making another video game adaptation.
Yes, it's still a video game adaptation. And don't get me wrong, there is no way to make a quality Monster Hunter movie that is in any way staying close to the source material, because the source material is fucking dumb and ridiculous. There is no, like, the story's not there. This is just to watch, like, I'm excited to see this movie just for the action of what they do with monsters and fighting them and everything like that, and how they play the story is not going to matter as much. So yeah, he has some fun action sequences. Mia Jovovich is returning to lead the cast for this. Yeah, it's no surprise.
For Monster Hunter?
Yes.
Okay.
You've got Mia Jovovich, Ron Perlman, Tony Jaa, good old T.I. Tip Harris, or Dave, as we know him in the Marvel Universe. And a bunch of the people you've never heard of after that. And it looks like Tony Jaa is playing the Hunter.
Huh.
And like one of the only press photos out for it, you can see Tony Jaa holding a great sword of some sort. It looks like a bone sword. Looks awesome. It just looks like it's going to be a Paul W.S. Anderson movie. The plot is not going to matter. Just enjoy the action.
Fair enough. Andy, we'll swing it over to honorable mentions for you. I have you written down for Dune, Bad Boys, Eternals, and Top Gun for your honorable mentions. Are there any others that we didn't talk about?
Yes. New Mutants.
Yeah, okay. That may
Was
finally
it-
see the
yeah,
light of
I
day.
gave up on
Maybe.
putting that movie
Yeah.
on my lists. It's been there for like 2.5 years on different lists. I was just like, you know what? I can't include it anymore. Maybe if I don't put it on a list,
Yeah.
it'll actually get released.
Right. And I'm somewhat curious and want to go see Birds of Prey.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm actually surprised it didn't make anyone's list.
Yeah.
Neither did.
And then two movies that I didn't even know were happening that just by reading the synopsis got me excited. One was called Raya and the Last Dragon. It's an animated movie coming from Disney later this year.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded cool. And I've always been sort of, I don't know if obsessed is a good word, but I've always been really into like the King Arthur legend. And there's a movie called Green Knight coming out, which is the tale of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
Nice, all right. I haven't heard of those
Yeah, I
last two.
hadn't heard or seen anything about Green Knight. Let's check that out.
Josh, you got any more honorable mentions?
Yeah, just maybe 3 or 4 that literally had no mention. On my personal one, otherwise, like Bad Boys is there. Birds of Prey actually was, which is an amendment to a statement I made. Like just before we started this, I think I said only one DC movie was coming out, but because I kind of forgot about this one, here's number 2. Number 2. So this actually hits first in February, I think. Other ones that we didn't like mention whatsoever. There's a Blumhouse movie coming out on Valentine's Day, which is like a horror fantasy reimagining of Fantasy Island.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I heard
that I've
about
seen
that one.
a trailer for that looks pretty intriguing to me. What else is around? Oh, there's a Pixar. I think it's Pixar. Coming in June called Soul.
Yeah, that does look interesting.
Looks like maybe I don't know if it's New Orleans per se, but like life of a jazz performer. That looks pretty cool.
It's on my calendar.
There you go. See, the calendar's a good thing to have. Let me just see. I guess that's about it. Anything that's like worth mentioning?
Okay.
Yeah, that's good enough.
I mean, Pixar's got the other one coming out too. Onward.
Yeah,
that's. At
I like
some
the
point.
trailer for that.
Yeah, it's on my calendar. Didn't make my honorable mentions, but that's coming.
For me, I'm hoping. I think we maybe talked about this in some kind of setting recently. I hope that ends up being better than it looks so far.
Yeah, the trailers aren't great, but it's interesting enough to get me through the door.
Yeah,
If you read me the premise, I would be more excited than the trailer. made me.
agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Honorable mentions for me, I think a lot of them we talked about. Bill and Ted, Death in the Nile, Eternals, Dune. Uncharted I have on there, even though I'm fairly confident it's not coming out this year. I just threw it on there in case it makes it. And I did put Fast and Furious 9 on my honorable mentions. That series, I will still see the series.
I'm shocked it doesn't have trailers or a title or anything, because I saw that's supposed to be out in May?
Something like that. Yeah, it's supposed to be a summer
I'm
blockbuster.
surprised.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that gets delayed too.
I would
but
bet.
whether or not they push it to the next year or to sometime later this year or next
I
year.
bet your honorable mentions has the highest earning movie of the year right there worldwide.
Which is sad, yeah. But I mean, it gives me a little bit more confidence that Justin Lin is coming back to direct, who directed some of my favorite. The favorite stretch of Fast and Furious movies for me was directed by Justin Lin. So the last couple hit or misses were not him, and I'm curious to see how he comes back
So
around.
He was what,
and
4,
what
5,
this
and
is.
6?
I think even 3 also, but 4, 5, and 6 was my stretch where
Okay.
those are my favorites, and that's all him. So yeah, I want to see how that ends up. Even if they end up in space, I'm gonna go see it.
That's
Drive around the moon.
I know you keep saying that the
Good
last few years. That I
Lord,
think that is going to be the culmination, like Fast and
No.
the Furious
Yeah,
X
Fast and Furious 10.
is
Yeah, they're gonna be
on
in
the
space.
goddamn moon.
Nope.
It's gonna be like SpaceX, and they're gonna use that logo as the
No.
logo.
They're going to be the Space
Son
Force.
of a bitch.
They're going to be
Oh, that is
the
perfect.
first recruits to Space Force. And
They're gonna remake Armageddon, but with the Fast and Furious
whip
team.
around the
Where-
moon.
where
they
They
just
have
go
to-
punch
they have
a
to
meteor.
slingshot the moon.
They have to do burnouts on the asteroid to break it up. All right. So,
Actually, real
on that
quick,
note-
I thought of two more to throw in.
Okay.
The first is called Rhythm Section that comes out late January. It's this like pretty intense
Blake Lively,
thriller.
right?
Yeah, I gotta say, I think I'm rather impressed with the project choices that Blake Lively has made the last couple years. You know, she took a few years off after starting her family, and when she came back, like half of them, it's like it's fine. It's like she doesn't care whether they're big blockbusters or they're big movies, but they're just rather intriguing. Like her turn in A Simple Favor with Anna Kendrick was really unnerving in a lot of cases.
Okay.
And I think the previews for this Rhythm Section movie make it look really friggin' intense.
Yeah.
So I'm down for that. And then there's this other one in April called Monster Problems, which is different than Monster Hunter. This is an adventure comedy, but the cast includes Jessica Henwick and Michael Rooker and Dylan O'Brien, who after the Maze Runner movies and American Assassin, I will see anything this dude does.
Yeah.
It looks really cool. It says young man learns how to survive a monster apocalypse with the help of an expert hunter. I am hoping to God Michael Rooker is that expert hunter. But that looks really fun. So those are my last two last minute additions.
trying to think. Like, I feel like there was one that I don't remember if I put it on one of my lists before. I don't know. There was. I don't know if it's called like Boss Level or something. I feel like there was some sort of comedy about an office setting somehow in a video game, unless I'm mixing up Free Guy with something else I thought I read at some point. But no, it slipped my mind. It started coming back to me when Josh was talking about this last one, and I'd have to look it up to see what the hell I'm talking about. But I think there was something similar to that I'm thinking of, but I can't officially say what it is because I can't remember when it's coming. I thought it was sometime this year that it got. I thought it was on one of my lists from previous year that then got pushed to this year, but I didn't immediately see something on my list from last year that jogged my memory.
I did find something called Boss Level. It doesn't really have an official release, it just says generically 2020, but I don't know what type of movie you thought it might be, because this is listed as a
It was more of a comedy from what I
sci-fi
remember.
thriller.
Okay, maybe not then.
Yeah, this says a retired special forces officer is trapped in a never-ending loop on the day of his death, which kind of sounds like Happy Death Day or Live, Die, Repeat.
Edge of
Edge of
Tomorrow, yeah.
right? I mean, it looks interesting. Like Joe Carnahan directs, Annabelle Wallis, Mel Gibson, Frank Grillo.
That does sound like the movie I'm talking about, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they kicked it somewhere else, like it's a direct to DVD, or I don't remember seeing that on the theater release schedule, unless I just missed it.
I don't think so, because it doesn't have an actual date. Just generically, still has 2020 attached to it.
Yeah,
So that might have been it.
yeah, that might be what I'm thinking of. Either way, we'll see if that comes out to anything. I don't know what to expect, but I think at some point the premise that I read for that sounded interesting. I can't, it'll be on my calendar list. I don't know if I can put it on honorable mentions, but just something else to throw out there for people to check out, maybe. All right, last call for any other movies to talk about. Otherwise, I think it's good enough to wrap up.
Yeah, and just in addition to this, I'd say in the next couple weeks, remember to look forward to that upcoming horror discussion that Mike and I will have, and if anyone else from the listening audience wants to jump on there, let us know.
And at some point, we have to get together probably at the start of next year to go over our top 10 of 2019.
Yep.
So keep an eye out for that one also. All right, so if you've enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. Make sure to follow or subscribe to the show wherever you listen. Spotify, iTunes, Google, any of that. We're on Anchor now. You can find us there. Search us on Facebook, Bry Guy and Super Friends, or go to facebook.com/Bry Guy Super Friends. You can send us questions, comments, topic suggestions, any of that stuff there. Tweet us at BGSuperFriends, or you can try to email us, bryguysuperfriends@gmail.com. It'll be in the log somewhere down the line that we'll get to eventually. On behalf of Andy, Josh, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.